very expertly put together our show. Surprise, we recorded that a little early after Matt LaFleur's press conference and then aired it as if it was live so I could get to Yankee Stadium in time. They stunk. They were terrible, but going to a World Series game was a cool experience. I got a ball, and at 29 years old, that's obviously not as cool as when I was, 13 going to games. But I was in the bleachers, and I didn't wrestle it away from any kids. I would never do that. But
I would hope not.
Jose Trevino, the Yankees starting catcher last night, not the Yankees starting catcher tonight, was warming up in the outfield, threw the ball into the stands, and I just snagged it among a group of adults and still have it in my room. And you should have seen the hands on me. Brought me back to my glory days of playing right field for the freshman baseball team at Wilton High School. That's what it's all about. Then, obviously, since I had a standing room only ticket, I didn't get kicked out of the bleachers, but there were a lot of people, or, at least a handful of people in my area of the bleachers that did not have a bleacher seat. So we were just like packing in like 2 people per seat. And people were being nice about it, but then more people came. It just got uncomfortable. I had to go to the bathroom, so I went up and to my standing room only seats, which was difficult. I'd never done standing room only, but you're behind a couple rows of people sometimes. You're like maneuvering around the outfield on different levels. Just you can go wherever, but you're trying to find the right point of view. I almost got caught in the middle of a brawl.
That sounds fun.
The Yankees couldn't get anybody on base or move anybody over. In the rare occasion they did get someone on base. So people just started fighting in the stands. I think one guy sucker punched someone because he did an Aaron Judge MVP chant. That's how restless people got at Yankee
Read the
Stadium.
room.
You want to know what was funny about it? Well, nothing was funny, but just from what I understood the situation to be, there was a guy on the second level heckling a guy on the first level, and they were going back at it verbally. And the guy on the second level came down and just sucker punched the guy on the first level.
Wow.
And I was standing next to and watching the game with the guy who got sucker punched for like the rest of the game. He had a big cut on his neck. He was bleeding, but the cops came over and talked to him, and he had a bunch of friends there with him. So all his friends were like trying to make sure he didn't get kicked out. He wasn't put in handcuffs, but then while they were talking to him, I guess debating if they were going to kick him out or not, another fight broke out a couple rows over. So all the cops just like sprinted over there. And then the guys that the cops were questioning just like walked away and went back to their seats. So things got a little tense over there. I've never gotten in a fight in my life. Thank God. The second fight resulted in someone being put in handcuffs. He got like thrown over a barrier and then put in handcuffs because he was throwing absolute haymakers. So not the greatest night for the fans at Yankee Stadium, but it's not over till the fat lady sings. She's not singing yet, but she's warming up her vocal cords, man. We stink.
Yeah, it's the tone was set early in game 1, the way that ended with the Freddie Freeman grand slam. And I remember, because I'm of a certain age, in 1988 when Kirk Gibson hit the home run off of Dennis Eckersley, the Dodgers were not favored in that World Series. The Dodgers weren't a very good team in 1988. They got past the Mets in the National League Championship Series. There were no divisional series back in that era. And it was just kind of, they got to the World Series on a fluke, and that was the only at bat that Kirk Gibson had that postseason or that World Series anyway, because of the pulled hamstring. And it just kind of propelled them to, I think they won it in 5. And the A's were so heavily favored. The A's were so good. They had Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer on that team. Well, a couple of guys that should have wound up in Cooperstown, but there's a little steroid misunderstanding back in the day that probably kept a couple of them out.
Misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I wish Aaron Judge was on steroids.
Because it doesn't help you hit the ball. It helps you hit the ball a little bit further, maybe. The steroid thing.
I mean, he's not hitting it at all.
Yeah.
I love the guy, but right now his legacy is that of a playoff choker, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to boo him. I'm not going to, go at him. There was this guy in the bleachers last night who was going at Judge in the 9th inning, and Judge is right there, right in front of us in center field. And he was the only one yelling at him. And someone else in our section, a guy I was there at the game with, a guy that I knew, was like, "Nobody likes you. Shut up." I thought this guy heckling Judge was going to get. He didn't, but it got real tense last night.
Well, you got game 4 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just. This will be the first time I watch a game these playoffs without any stress or any expectation. I'll still wear my same Juan Soto jersey that I've worn every single game these playoffs, 22, no name on the back. Haven't washed it.
Okay. Is it due for, I mean, I assume that, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's due for a wash.
As soon as.
But it's
as
not
soon as
getting
it's
washed
over.
until the season's over.
Okay.
And that could be later tonight.
Who's going to wear number 22 next year for the Yankees?
Juan Soto.
Okay.
I really hope so. I'm manifesting. You know, Aaron Rodgers taught me the power of manifestation, Doug. And I'm manifesting Juan Soto.
How's that working out for Aaron right now?
Because if he signs with the Mets or the Dodgers, I might just find like a cricket team to root for instead of watching baseball next year.
Okay.
That will break me if Juan Soto does not re-sign. So, yeah, it was a great experience. I have some great pictures. I found out a couple hours before the game started that my childhood best friend was going to be there. He lives in New York City. Him and his younger brother, who we've been family friends with since I was 7, were going to be there. So hung out with them. It was a great experience. Shout out to Slaters. A couple other people I knew were there. So I was originally planning just to go by myself. And they were making fun of me on 9 to noon saying, you should go to a game by yourself. It's like, well, yeah, I watch them.
Sure.
That's how I watch playoff games.
Yeah.
And,
I don't have any problem with that. I have no issue with that.
I appreciate that. And then it turned into just that. And I hope Packer fans can sympathize with what I'm going through right now. There just wasn't anything to even inspire hope. Freddie Freeman hit a 2-run homer 5 minutes after the game started, and the Yankees just never gave you they never had the tying run at the plate, I don't think. It just was. And then Alex Verdugo, who's been so bad all playoffs, just hits a meaningless 2-run home run in the 9th inning. It almost made me angrier.
Where was that in the 3rd? In other words?
It was what in the 3rd?
Where couldn't the home run have come in the 3rd? So that maybe that would have sparked on maybe a little bit more life with 6 innings left to play.
Exactly. When it was 2-0. Now it was 4-0. You knew nobody was doing anything after that. Gleyber Torres walks out, his game-ending ground out. Now we need some magic. Just win one. Dodgers bullpen game tonight. Then we got Garrett Cole on the hill tomorrow if it goes to a game 5. You never know.
Never know.
Actually, you probably do know in this case, but I would say I've seen crazier things happen, but I haven't, to be quite honest with you.
You did. It was just, it happened to your team in the ALCS about 20 years ago, give or take.
Yeah, I was not even 10 years old. So, we can move on, talk about Packers. We'll have Wayne Larrabee on the show. He's a Yankee fan too. Maybe we'll mention it once or twice, but I'm just don't feel much of anything right now. Like, I'm not upset. I'm not sad. I'm just like numb about it. I was not even close to as mad after the game last night as I was after games 1 and 2 because it's just expected now. They've sapped the life out of me.
Oh, maybe that's why your phone doesn't work. I
don't know why my phone's not working. That is annoying me more than the Yankees right now.
We're up on the stream. The audio's up on the stream, but the commercial break placard is up right now. So we are on the stream. You just can't see anything. I can't see you. This is the first show that we've ever done that I can't see you.
Thanks, Dad. And my dad includes, and Dave Roberts played a key role on that Red Sox team. I know. Anyway, there's a massive football game taking place in Green Bay on Sunday.
Yeah, you get the Fox A team, but you should always turn them down and listen to Wayne and Larry, of course.
Yes. Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi on the call for Fox, America's Game of the Week. Packers Lions, it's going to be a good one. There are a lot of key injury updates to watch starting tomorrow. Practice participations. Jordan Love, his groin. Jair Alexander, his knee. Eric Stokes, if he's dealing with something, because Carrington Valentine, I think, played 12 snaps. That doesn't normally happen. They did a rotation earlier in the year before Valentine got hurt. But I think Stokes got injured too. Josh Jacobs got banged up at the end. He was a little gimpy in the locker room after the game. Evan Williams, the hamstring. So, in past weeks, as we've mentioned, it's been a CVS receipt or the injury report, but it's kind of just there because they have to put guys who are dealing with something on there. And then it narrows down once it gets to the final injury report of the week. It might be substantial throughout the week, this week, because guys are dealing with actual stuff that could potentially keep them out of the game. I'll be interested to see. And I know coaches will always say, if they're good to go, they're good to go. But the fact that they have the bye week after this, does that influence any decisions? Matt LaFleur will say no, and I believe him, especially because it's the Lions. You don't want to start 0-2 in the division. This is a key game when it comes to, playoff seeding, tiebreakers, division. So maybe they treat it as if it were a playoff game, like if this were, because you sometimes hear if this were a playoff game, you would have gone. So maybe they treat it like that. But I have to think the bye week, at least in part, plays a role in maybe some of their decisions.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it will. I'm not sure. But, I mean, this game could be the difference between a number 1 seed and a number 5 seed.
Oh, yeah.
So I think you have to treat it like a playoff game. This, in totality, I think I said this on last night's show, but I think it bears repeating. In totality, this could be the most important game of the Packers' regular season. Now, there are going to be games, let me qualify that, because later on in the season, as the Lions have, go through their schedule, as the Packers go through their schedule, maybe the Vikings will win a couple more games, maybe the Bears will win a few more games. Who knows? There may, at the end of the year, be a game that, you win this one and you can win the division, or, you're doing some scoreboard watching with Detroit or Chicago or Minnesota or something like that as the season goes on. I get all that. I'm talking about in totality. If you just look at the 2024 regular season as one unit, you can maybe perhaps point to this game as, all right, that's where the Packers went 7-2. That's where they beat the Lions and at least earned at worst a split between these two teams. And like I said, this could be the difference between a 1 seed and a 5 seed. And I'm not overstating that at all. I mean, I think these are the two best teams in the NFC. I really do.
Yeah, I definitely agree right now. The Vikings, after the loss to the Rams, they're not a step above the Packers anymore, at least when it comes to the standings, even though the Vikings beat the Packers, so they currently have the tiebreaker, but they'll obviously play again. It'll be fascinating to see how this division shakes out once teams start playing each other. The Packers, as you said, currently have the 5 seed. Right now, they would go to Arizona in the first round. Obviously, there's, a crap ton. It's just fun sometimes to play that hypothetical game. Now the Packers would go to Arizona. If the seeding, all goes according to seed in the first round, they would play the Detroit Lions in the second round. So you want that game to be at Lambeau Field. You want it to be in Detroit. Even though last year the Packers won in Detroit, lost at Lambeau Field against the Lions. I don't want to call it because we already Packers stand. I think they're Super Bowl contenders regardless of what happens, especially if banged up. And it's not like the Aiden Hutchinson injury. All right, they're banged up, but then they'll have Hutchinson. So what they do now isn't completely indicative of what they'll be at the end of the season. Hutchinson is out for, I know they said, he could return for the Super Bowl. We'll see about that. Hopefully he can. Hopefully he's in good health. One of the best players in the league. For the Packers, if they don't have a couple of their key players, like Jair, Jordan Love, they'll have them for the Bears game after the bye. So I wouldn't say it's a measuring stick game, especially if Packers are missing a couple guys. If the Packers win with Malik Willis, though, call off the Coach of the Year award, give it to Matt LaFleur right there. And I am not counting the Packers out of winning this game, even if Jordan Love doesn't play.
Yeah, I get the sense that Jordan Love is going to play, but we'll find out, obviously, as the week goes on. I don't necessarily look at this as a measuring stick game per se. I just think it's more important in the standings than anything else, because if you are going to earn that split, you figure that you've got a better chance to win at home as opposed to the game that they're going to play at Ford Field later on in the season, a Thursday night game in early December. So is it a measuring stick to a certain, for some people, it probably will be. For some people, it'll probably, solidify either the Lions or the Packers as the best team in the NFC, arguably in the NFL. I know the Chiefs are still unbeaten. They've got a Monday night game coming up, so they'll be undefeated when this game ends. And I listen, I respect those that think that the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. They may be. I don't know. I'm not as convinced of that. That having been said, I mean, it's just for me, it's just one of those critical games in the middle of the season that typically you would love to have at the end of the year that you don't have that luxury of this season. So, yeah, we'll see what the injury report looks like. We'll see who's able to go and who's not able to go. But yeah, I most of the time I downplay how important games are. We had a caller that a couple of weeks ago was saying that the Texans was a must win. Well, obviously it wasn't. It was the Jaguars. That's a must win because you've got to beat that team. You've got to impose your will, and you can't afford to drop a game against a winnable opponent. It's a trap game. Yeah, okay. I mean, if they would have lost that game, was it? Does it make you feel good? No, but is it a must win? No, and I don't know that this is a must win, but I think it's the most important game that they played this year, and it may be the most important game they play all season long. Outside of if they have to a win and in type of scenario coming up later on in the season.
That's for sure. Vikings traded for Jaguars left tackle Cam Robinson. So they replaced Christian Darrisaw, their franchise left tackle, who's out for the season with that knee injury, I believe he suffered against the Rams last Thursday night. Let's get to a quick break. After the break, we'll have the longtime voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, on the program. Hopefully that technology is working, even though my technology is not working on this end. We'll talk to Wayne after the break. Maybe a little bit of Yankees, mostly Packers, as we get you all ready for the big Packers-Lions game this Sunday at Lambeau Field. Stick with us. It's the Matt Schneidman Show on the Game. It is time to tell you about the fantastic Iron Jock. Doug, it's getting that time of the year. Although global warming is real. It was like 80 degrees out today, which is crazy for October 29th. Now through November 10th. Ooh, they switched up the ad read on me. It's for November. Now through November 10th, buy 2 polo shirts, and Iron Jock will include a performance short sleeve t-shirt for free when you use the promo code POLO. Everyone knows how to spell that. That's a $39.99 performance tee for free. Make sure you have the short sleeve t-shirt in your cart, and it'll automatically be marked down to free when you enter the promo code POLO. Go to ironjock.com for details. That's ironjoc.com. We have Wayne on the line yet? Wayno, how we doing? How's morale?
Well,
oh, that's not good. I didn't like that sigh.
I think we're going to turn it around tonight.
Oh, okay.
And get this thing back to LA somehow.
Well, there's 2 more games in New York, so you think we win the next 2?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
I'm
going to win tonight. At some point, Judge is going to hit. He gets enough at bats, he's going to hit something.
I don't know about that. You would think he would already.
Are you still in New York, or are you back in the homeland?
No, I'm back in the homeland. I will be watching tonight's game calmly, stress-free from my living room. So
how was the atmosphere? Were you out in the bleachers? I saw your picture. Was it the bleachers?
Yeah, that was before the game, and I watched some pregame from the bleachers. I did not have a bleacher seat. People were just kind of sneaking in that section, and then the people who had my seats came, and everyone was packing in since there were some people in the bleachers who didn't actually have bleacher seats. So I left, went to I didn't even have a seat. I had standing room only ticket. So
right.
It was, I mean, it's a bucket list experience going to the World Series. There hasn't been a World Series game at Yankee Stadium in 15 years. So it was a good experience. I'm sure I'll be able to appreciate it more down the line. Right now, it's just like, can we please hit the ball just once?
Yeah, hit the ball. Exactly.
Anyway, let's talk Packers.
Talk about the Yankees.
No, nobody wants to hear that. I already spent enough time wallowing in my sorrows in the first segment. So what do you say we talk Packers Lions? How about this for a game? 6-2 versus 6-1. Nobody, well, I'll put it this way. Nobody's playing better in the NFC than the Detroit Lions. They might be playing the best in the NFL just aesthetically, but nobody has a better record than the Kansas City Chiefs. What is the biggest challenge for the Packers when the Lions come to town on Sunday?
I think really the biggest challenge is defending that offense. It's interesting because they've got a couple of receivers, but that's about it, really. They're very thin at that position, but their 2 running backs are outstanding. Their quarterback is playing better than any quarterback in the league. Trust me, folks, this is not debatable. He's playing better in the last 4 weeks than any quarterback in the National Football League, including Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Okay, so this is a challenge. It has to be twofold, Matt. I think the Packers need a ball control offense to keep that Detroit offense off the field, and I think once that Detroit offense is on the field, the Packers have to be very good against the run, but also they've got to pressure Jared Goff a little bit. He does not like to get knocked off of his spot, but with that great offensive line in front of him, he rarely has to adjust. So that's the big thing, I think, right there. I don't think they have a plethora of great wide receivers. They've got an excellent tight end. Amon-Ra St. Brown is as good as it gets in the medium range. Aside from that, Tim Patrick from Denver, we've seen him. Khalif Raymond's a nice player, but they're not huge threats. I think the running game and pressuring Jared Goff, he's just so accurate right now.
I'm looking at these ESPN pass rush win rate, run block win rate, pass block win rate, run block win rate stats. The Lions offensive line, 5th in the league in pass block win rate, 4th in the league in run block win rate. By comparison, the Packers are 17th and 24th in those respective categories. Not entirely indicative of how good an offensive line is, but a good measuring stick. Lions have one of the best in the league. I think the area that's most dangerous is the running game. Packers don't have any glaring weaknesses. Their run defense isn't as glaring of a weakness as it's been in years past. as it was for the first 2 years under Joe Barry. But man, this Lions team is relentless on the ground. They're second in the NFL in offensive EPA per rush. I think they're something like 7th in rushing yards per game. Because rushing yards per game, I think that is obviously skewed. Colts game, the first game that Malik Willis started. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Lions are 6th in rushing yards per game, 156.7. Packers have 156.9. They have the best, and I mean the Lions, the best running back duo in the NFL. David Montgomery, Gibbs. I wouldn't even call them thunder and lightning. I just call them, they are a true 1A and 1A, or 1A and 1B, whatever Matt LaFleur kind of dubbed Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon as. That running game is something fierce. And they scored 52 points last week. Jared Goff threw for 85 yards. One of their running backs, David Montgomery, the former Bear, threw a touchdown. Jared Goff threw 3 and only threw for 85 yards. This is an efficient offense that is really, really hard to defend.
Oh, it's the number one offense in football, period, overall. No doubt about it. And the other thing is, you mentioned they're relentless on the ground. They average almost 31 rushing attempts a game. And that's for the quarterback who's among the league leaders in passer rating. I mean, he's, his 115.3 passer rating. They as a team are 117.7 in the passer rating. So that running game does a lot for them. But I think that what makes it go on offense is the offensive line. And it is arguably one of the best, if not the best, in football. There's another metric that has been bantied about. I don't quite know if I understand it completely, but I know all the kids your age are big into these metrics, and you've been quoting those ESPN stats. Defensive adjusted value over average.
DVOA.
Yeah, DVOA is a metric that measures a team's efficiency, then adjusts it to the strength of their opponent. The Lions are number one in this category overall at plus 44.8. Baltimore is next, 31.2. The Vikings are third, 28.1. The Packers are actually respectable here. They're eighth, 17.8. I mean, just think about that. The Lions aren't just the best team in football right now. They're the best team by a wide margin of any kind of metric you want to use. And so I'm just saying they are now. This is their year, Matt. Now, does that mean they're going to win the Super Bowl? No, it does not. Whose year was it last year? It was San Francisco's year last year. They were best team in the NFC, and I think best team in the league last year overall. It was their year. But they weren't playing very well in January. And the Packers almost beat them. And the Lions should have beaten them. And in the Super Bowl, as bad as Mahomes and the offense were playing, that defense kept that team in the game. They got it tied at the end of regulation, and then Mahomes' magic in overtime doomed San Francisco. That was their year. Now, they're much less a team this year than they were a year ago. They're going to get it together. They're going to make the playoffs. They're playing in a terrible division. And they're going to make the playoffs. Somebody will have to deal with San Francisco in January. But San Francisco is not the team this year they were last year. They missed their window of opportunity. This is Detroit's year. This is what they've been pointing for the last 4 years. It is their year. Now, it's up to the rest of the league to make sure they don't cash in on that.
Another stat that illustrates, look at Wayne throwing out DVOA. I like that. Another stat that illustrates the effectiveness of the Lions offensive line. They rank third in the NFL in yards before contact per rush, 1.94, meaning more than, more than 29 other teams in the NFL. Their running backs are not getting touched when they carry the ball before a certain period. That's how much space their offensive line creates. The Ravens and the 49ers, the only two teams ahead of them. So Lions are a lethal team to defend. Wayne, I'm not going to ask you your hunch on the Jordan Love groin injury because who knows how that plays out. It's anybody's guess how he kind of responds to treatment and moving around on it this week. But let's say he's right on the fence of being able to play physically. If you're the Packers, do you play him considering the importance of this game? Or do you say, you know what, we need him for the stretch run. Let's give him the bye week as well after this.
Yeah, that's the temptation. The one thing I will say about that is that the Lions are struggling with their pass rush. And why is that? Well, their top 4 pass rushers are out for the season, okay? Aiden Hutchinson is gone. He's their best player and maybe the best player in the NFL, possibly. They brought on Marcus Davenport from the Saints. He has a torn triceps. He's gone. Strong side linebacker Derek Barnes, who could bring heat off the edge. He's out with a knee injury. Even defensive end John Pascal didn't play against the Titans on Sunday. They're down, but they're not getting much pressure on the quarterback of late. When I look at it, they're just 1 sack last week. The line has struggled in the last 3 or 4 weeks. This is a situation where does Jordan Love have to be real mobile? I don't think so, but he's got to be able to push off and direct the ball downfield. He has to. I think a lot of it, Matt, is how much can he get on the football? Can he throw the ball with authority downfield? Now, we don't need him to run left and right, up and down a whole lot. But if he can throw it, then I think you go ahead and play him. If not, then if you're worried about him doing that and protecting himself, then you've got to give him an extra week, which is the bye week coming up.
Yeah, that was the big thing that LaFleur said post-game and then again on Monday, right, is he needs to be able to protect himself. And they got to a point in Sunday's game where he wasn't. So was it because of that Travon Walker hit? That was probably the final blow, but Jordan Love was clearly hobbled. In the moment, that play where he rolls right and has plenty of room to run for the first down, but hits Tucker Kraft downfield for that 67-yard gain. In the moment, I said, oh, that's a great decision, because Tom Clements has told us before about how an area where Jordan Love improved last season was scrambling downfield, but keeping, well, I shouldn't say scrambling downfield, escaping the pocket behind the line of scrimmage and then keeping his eyes up for bigger passing plays downfield instead of just taking off with his feet. And in the moment, I said, oh, he could have easily gotten the first down, but that's just an embodiment of that growth. I watched the playback and it's like, I'm not sure he could have gotten the first down because he was not moving well on that. That might have just been, I don't know if I can make it. Thankfully, Tucker's open. I'm going to give him a shot and hope he can break the tackle of Darnell Savage. Surprise, he did. So we'll see if he even practices. This could be a week, I think Ian Rappaport mentioned this, where he might not practice. And that's probably not a great sign, compared to the days when he was limited. Every injury is different, so maybe this one just needs some rest, and then he'll play on Sunday, considering the importance of the game. But, I don't think Jordan Love is a guy who necessarily needs practice to play. He knows the system well enough. He doesn't really need the reps. But I think it's all up in the air. And then obviously there are a couple other key injuries. Jair Alexander, Evan Williams are 2 huge ones. Those are 2 starters on the back end. So, look, we knew this was going to happen at some point. Not another Jordan Love injury, but injuries were going to come in bunches. We were knocking on every wooden surface we could find if you're a Packer fan last week, because only Corey Ballantyne was out with an injury last week. They were about as healthy as could be with Devontae Wyatt coming back. And now it's like, oh, well, so much for that. But we knew that was possible. That's just life in the NFL for you.
Well, and the Lions are as beat up as anybody, and then they've got a suspension. Jameson Williams is not that guy. I don't understand that guy. He's been suspended now a couple of times. He's had injury issues. First round draft choice, can blow the top off of defense, but doesn't seem to play like it. And, I don't know what to make of him, but he's not going to play this week. So, teams are dealing with injuries, and the good teams, like the Lions, like the Packers, can overcome these things because they do have a certain amount of depth and ability level in that depth to get the job done if they don't have their starters in there. But I'm with you. I think you're going to need all hands on deck. I think a lot of it comes down to, Matt, okay, Jordan's not going to run 30 yards for a first down, but can Jordan move around enough to protect himself, stay in the pocket, and then it becomes, all right, how much can he get on a pass? Does this leg injury impact his ability to drive the football? That becomes the next question.
Yeah, we'll see. You bring up Jameson Williams. Some news broke earlier today that police are investigating why Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams avoided arrest after a gun was found in his car. He was recently suspended 2 games for a performance-enhancing substance policy violation. So, he hadn't been super productive this year, but he is that deep threat who is capable of taking the top off, kind of a boomer. I don't want to compare him to Christian Watson in the boomer bust sense. I think Watson's probably more a complete receiver. But Williams is dangerous. You got a game plan for him. Packers won't have to this Sunday. Like you said, Amon-Ra St. Brown is their number one guy. After that, it's not much in terms of household names, kind of like the Packers. Special teams, though, is an area that's going to have to bring it this week. Khalif Raymond had a punt return for a touchdown. I think I watched the Dan Campbell post-game locker room speech video, and he mentioned that Khalif Raymond had 5 punt returns for 190 yards. He was like 19 yards shy of the NFL all-time single-game punt return yardage record. So Rich Bisaccia is going to have his hands full. Packers punt coverage team got a shout-out in their own post-game locker room celebration. Matt LaFleur shouted them out for their coverage. Bo Melton as the flyer. Daniel Whelan for his punting, which he's been doing really well. That'll be a matchup within the matchup to watch on Sunday. But, Wayne, we appreciate you. I'm going to go put on my clown mask and watch the Yankees and hope they can extend this series. I'm not buying back in emotionally until they force a Game 6, though. I'll buy back in I'll buy back in if they take a lead in Game 5. Tonight, just stress-free. Right. Stress-free.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, we'll talk to you next week at least.
Yeah, I'll still be here.
Okay, hope so. We're counting on it.
Thanks, Wayno. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Matt.
They're just a couple sad sacks of garbage, Doug.
Well, it is what it is. You're just kind of stepping into the shoes of a Brewers fan for, most of the last 6 or 7 Octobers. The way that the Brewers play in October since 2018 hasn't been spectacular. They keep getting there, which is great. The regular season's fun. And then you get into the postseason and less fun. Not as much.
Yeah.
So welcome to Wisconsin.
I know. Well,
now
Wisconsin I'm not going to say I know what Wisconsin sports fans feel like because they've had their hearts ripped out over and over and over and over.
Oh, we get kicked in the cubes all the time. All the time.
What is I'm not going to do that. I'm in no position to ask what the most heartbreaking Wisconsin sports fan loss is.
No, I mean,
no. I don't want to do it. I'm not in a position to do it. Just a hypothetical.
I've got thoughts.
Maybe we get to those after the break.
Okay.
A reminder, the new Nicolet.com talk and text line, 1-877-794-1973. If you have the old one in your phone, delete it. That was 414-799-1973. That's not it anymore. The new NicoletLaw.com talk and text line, 1-877-794-1973. We apologize for no stream today. I have no idea why my camera on my phone, where I normally use my StreamYard, is not working. My audio's good though, Doug, that segment?
Yeah, the audio's good. There's some bugs in the system. We got some gremlins running around here today. I don't know what's going on. It happens.
Okay, well, we're making a show. If you have any thoughts, text, calls, hit that number, 1-877-794-1973. We'll wrap up the Tuesday edition of the Matt Schneidman Show after the break right here on The Game. Wrapping up on the Matt Schneidman Show, Tuesday, October 29th. It's almost Halloween. That's this Thursday.
Yep. Day
A
after
couple days
tomorrow.
after that. What'd you say?
Day after tomorrow.
Day after tomorrow. Packers made an interesting practice squad signing today. Jamin Davis, a linebacker, defensive end, outside linebacker guy. The 2021 first-round pick of the Washington Commanders, then the Washington football team, I believe. He was the 19th overall pick in that draft. The same draft the Packers took Eric Stokes in. Out of Kentucky. The Commanders released him last week before his rookie contract even expired. He can play defensive end like an outside linebacker, obviously just a defensive end in the Packers scheme of 4-3, or he can play middle linebacker. It'll be interesting to see what the Packers use him as, but an interesting signing nonetheless. I mean, there's everyone sees former first rounder, they get excited, but there's a reason this guy was cut by the team that drafted him.
And there's a reason that he's on the practice squad too.
Right. He's not very good. But someone brought up on Twitter today, the Packers have had success, taking guys like this, like a Rasul Douglas. Just these mid-season pickups. Now, Rasul was, I think he was on the active roster. He didn't start on the practice squad here in Green Bay. But these low-risk, high-reward guys, the Packers tried it with Jonathan Abram a couple years ago, the 2019 first-rounder of the Raiders, who was in the same rookie draft class as Josh Jacobs with the then Oakland Raiders. I was at that introductory press conference with both of those guys, but that obviously didn't work out. If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But an interesting signing for name and former draft slot alone. The Packers, in a corresponding move, released Chris Russell, their practice squad linebacker, who was college teammates with Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper, not going to be on the practice squad anytime soon. I don't think.
No. And I know what you're thinking. No relation.
What? Huh?
Chris Russell. No relation.
Oh, to you. I was thinking Cooper. I was like,
no.
Who's Cooper?
No.
I know
Doug, I know Chris and I look like brothers.
With all due respect,
we are not.
I did not think you and Chris Russell were related.
I just wanted to make it clear. You just wanted to make it clear. That's all.
Yeah, Chris Russell, not as good looking, not as talented as you.
Clearly. Well, that's why I got cut.
Could not cut up a show that we record on StreamYard, put in audio, put in ads, just like Doug Russell could not stone someone in the A-gap. And maybe Chris Russell can't either, and that's why they released him from the practice squad.
Could be. I like his chances of stoning somebody in the A-gap more than I like my own chances of doing that.
So do I.
But, yeah. Perhaps he'll sign on with somebody else.
Man, these, and this is something everyone can relate with. These telemarketing calls and texts with Election Day next Tuesday. Good heavens.
I already voted, so can I just opt out of all of that crap? I don't want to see any more ads. I don't want to see any more texts. I don't want to see any more. Listen, you can't convince me. It's too late. It's too late. My vote's already in. I opt out.
Mine is not. I will be voting, though.
Good. You should. Everybody should.
And I will not be revealing who I'm voting for on this program because that is a high.
There's no way. You can't win that way.
You can't. I was trying to figure out the right way to say
it. It's like you're never going to find a yard sign in my yard. You're never going to find a bumper sticker on my car, and I'm not doing politics on the air or online because there's no way to win. There's no winner.
Me too. I'm not political as it is, but certainly not going to engage in that with people online, with all due respect, of course.
Yes, of course. We've got a station for that down the hall that does that.
I swear to God, if one more Red Sox fan texts me today with the link to the new Netflix documentary about them coming back from 3-0 and say, here's your inspiration for the day, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
I've had multiple Red Sox fans text me that today.
So are you going to
keep your head up. We did it to you.
Are you going to stick with it through the last out no matter what happens tonight? Or you?
Oh, yeah.
See, I can't.
I would never turn it off early. I stayed till after the last. That's how I got back down into the bleachers at the end of the game last night, was because so many people left.
Dude, you paid $1,600 for that ticket. I'm surprised you're not still there.
I probably could have slept there. I was just wondering if there were as many brawls in the stands as runs the Yankees scored. And for a portion of the game, there were about to be as many brawls as hits the Yankees had.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
you win some, you lose some.
well, we're not. No, you don't win some because we haven't won any this series, to be quite honest.
How many do you have in history? Like 27, 28?
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. I'm not one of those people who flexes that. We haven't won one in 15 years. We've won 2 this century. Come on. We're the Yankees. Figure it out. Win 1 tonight. Starts with 1.
That's how a lot of Packers fans are about the Packers. It's like, yeah, okay, we're not going to flex on it. We've only won one since, the turn of the century.
Exactly. So we'll see. Again, whether it's today or later in the week, put that new NicoletLaw.com talk and text line in your phone, 1-877-794-1973. Tomorrow, we will first learn about the practice participation levels of guys like Jordan Love, Evan Williams, Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Josh Jacobs. And there are always, 1 or 2 guys who pick up injuries during the game that they play through, and we just don't know about them. Matt LaFleur in his post-game, celebratory speech, he didn't give out any game balls this week. He also lauded Josh Myers for playing through stuff. 3 guys he, shouted out for doing that: Jordan Love, Evan Williams, and Josh Myers. So we'll see if he practices. Trade deadline is a week from today.
Mhm.
And just briefly before we get out of here, Doug, what do you think not what the Packers will do, what do you think the Packers should do, if anything, at the deadline?
I don't think they should do anything. I think that they're 6-2 right now. They're as good as anybody in the NFC. Well, and I guess we'll see on Sunday whether or not they're as good as the Lions. I don't know that there is anything, unless the price is right for some depth. There aren't any glaring holes or anything like that. And there's certainly nothing that I would, and they're not going to quote unquote mortgage the future. But I don't know that there's anything that's going to be a fit unless, like I said, there's a depth move somewhere, maybe on the offensive line. Who knows? I don't know. For a late 6th or 7th round draft choice. That's all I could possibly see.
Yeah, I certainly don't think there are going to be any splash additions, even when they have dire needs. For example, a wide receiver 2 a couple of years ago, and I know he wasn't a trade target because he was a free agent during the season after the Browns released him, but Odell Beckham Jr., Packers were in the mix for that along with the Rams. He signed with the Rams. Even if the Packers had a glaring need, I don't think they would, spend too much for it, whether it's draft capital or money. They don't have any glaring needs. I think the 2 areas where you look and say, okay, there could be upgrades here are that second outside cornerback spot and, a pass rusher if they trade Preston Smith. Maybe interior defensive line to improve on their depth behind Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt. Ian Rappaport reported a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, that Preston Smith is garnering some interest around the league. I looked up today. Among players with at least 100 pass rush snaps this season, according to True Media, Preston Smith ranks 127th in pressure percentage. 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. I think those are just the 2 sacks. No forced fumbles. He's playing 56% of the defensive snaps. Rashawn Gary's at like 63. I think Inagbari is at 43. Van Ness is at 40. So if they trade Preston Smith, they would have to get another defensive end because Aaron Mosby has played 2 defensive snaps this year. Brenton Cox Jr. hasn't been active for a game this season. So if they keep Preston Smith, they'll just stick with those 4 in the rotation. If they trade him, they'll need to get someone else.
Right.
But like you said, Doug, I don't expect it's not going to be Myles Garrett or Max Crosby.
Oh, God, no.
The number 1, pass rusher, defensive edge guy out there is Zadarius Smith, ironically enough. And guess what ain't happening? Him coming back to Green Bay.
No.
So
that bridge got burned pretty good.
Yes, it did. So we will see what the Packers do. I don't think they do anything, or at least not anything of substance. Last year, that 24-10 loss to the Vikings, I think, spurred them to get rid of Rasul Douglas. Traded a 5th-round pick in Rasul in exchange for a 3rd, turned that into Tyron Hopper, who's become a core special teamer this year. I don't think this Sunday's game will push their hand one way or another. They're a Super Bowl contender regardless, I think. But you never know. I've been wrong. I say it all the time. I've been wrong before about this team. I'll be wrong again. That's just the way it goes. the way it goes is we'll be back on this program tomorrow night at 6. Actually, no, we won't. The
No, we
Badgers
won't.
play
We
tomorrow.
got Badgers basketball tomorrow.
And then football feast on Thursday. We won't talk to you again until Friday. What the heck?
I know. We'll miss you all.
Until
maybe
then,
I'll get your
he's Doug,
camera
and I'm
fixed.
Matt. We'll see you in a couple of years. Jesus.